Hi guys, on Saturday morning my wife and I set off on a bit of a walk in a new area. Now the walk was predominantly just an exercising part of an exercising regime that we're doing, because as of late we haven't really been getting and travelling the distance as we normally would. We'd normally be out 2 and 3, 4 times a week if possible, doing 4 or 5 miles. So that was really, my wife had made it pretty clear that she didn't want to be traipsing through dense woodland and everything else. So, but I was aware that that particular area did have some quite dense woodland, and it linked my other 4 areas coincidentally. So I was happy to go along. So on the walk, about halfway through that particular walk, you start to head up moorland, quite a steep incline. And we get to about halfway up the moorland and we come across a footprint. And for whatever reason, it just didn't register in my mind that that was a potential Bigfoot print. It just, for whatever reason, it just didn't click. I automatically, because of the route that it was on, because a lot of fell running goes on up there, I automatically put it down to, this is a set of the 5-finger-toe boots, and then 100, 200 yards later, further down the up the route, another 2 or 3 prints would appear, and they were never in a stride formation. They were always around. There was always around 2.5 meters between the prints, and they were only about a size UK 7. If you imagine a size 7 foot, and for whatever reason, it was only on the sort of like finding the 3rd print or even partial print. My wife said, you should really take a picture of these just in case. So I did, and I didn't really give it much thought until I posted the image on Facebook and people started questioning it. But even now, I don't think, if I'm honest, I don't think that's a Bigfoot print. I really don't. I think, for whatever reason, I just expect it, given what little I know about the anatomy of the foot, it would look different than that. The arch is a little bit too pronounced on one of the prints, this first print here. But I have seen prints from the US that do have a slight arch in them. Now, of course, in this country, we don't know exactly what it is we're dealing with. The second print looks more like I would imagine a print to look. It's a little bit, the angle of the toes I would imagine should be straighter, and the width of the heel should be a little wider. I would prefer it to be a little bit wider. But it comes back down to really one question, and that is, why would someone be walking barefoot up that hill? Because you wouldn't. I've walked the hill. There's no way you could walk up that hill. The terrain is terrible. You would break your ankle after a minute or so trying to get up that run. There's no way you would be able to continue, because it's a mixture of pebbles and rocks, slate, and then you'll get a muddy part, and that's what it is, sort of sporadic all the way up the hill. So there's just no way, and it's also not one of those scenarios where you would stand in deep mud and your shoe might come out, and then you would walk. You might do a couple of prints in your sock, or your foot might come out your boot, for example. That's just not a valid explanation, because the prints occurred over about 4, 5, maybe even 1,000 yards up that hill, because it's a long hill. And you can look at the map here, you can see it. So it's really has to be a pair of those 5-finger-toe boots. Now look at the boots, and the majority of the boots come with tread on the toes and on the ball of the foot and on the heel. So it doesn't automatically scream a pair of the 5-finger-toe boots upon analysing it. I'm not saying, I think it has to be a pair of those shoes, because you can't walk up that hill barefoot. You can't walk up that, I'm not saying you can't, you could, but you would certainly injure yourself in doing so. So it has to be, I guess, a pair of those shoes. And what happened is, the day after the response on the Facebook, the day after, I went back to try and take some measurements. Now, although I knew they were only about a size 7, 8 at the most, it helps all obviously to have a reference, so a tape measure or something to reference beside the print. And normally I would have that if I go out and I'm going out particularly researching. I take my professional camera, I take the tripod and the tape measures in there. But on this occasion, obviously, we were only walking, so it didn't even cross my mind to do that. But as I say, so you guys feel free to post your comments. My thoughts are that it's, for whatever reason, it just doesn't look like a Bigfoot print to me in my mind. But I know nothing about Bigfoot prints because, as all of you know, in the UK we've probably got a handful of references to a print. I think one from Jason Parsons. I think it might be Dominic that's found one, and maybe Guy. I'm not sure, but they're always inconclusive. We've never really had. I think Jason's is pretty good, but we've never really had a print that's fresh, that's been a couple of hours. Although people have said to me that print will have to have been done a few hours before you arrived, and I would agree with that. If it is whoever made that print, man or beast. Because ultimately, when we went back on the Sunday, it was complete opposite of the Saturday. We went on the Saturday expecting it to be pretty busy, and there was nobody there. And then we went on the Sunday, and it was rammed. It was absolutely heaving. There must have been, throughout the day, I estimate, there must have been about 200 to 300 people there that day. And so no wonder the prints weren't there. Which is typical, really. I mean, I was going to wait until the Monday to go back, so I went back on the Sunday and they still weren't there. So, it appeared that it had rained, even though it didn't rain here, and it is only about 10 miles from me. So, here in the northwest, it just rains on and off pretty much permanently. So, it's a lesson learned, but even so, it's a good exercise to come across a situation like that where you really have to draw a conclusion as to what is causing what made those prints. And right now, you have to side with a pair of the 5-finger toe boots, because had there been one or two prints within a couple of meters of each other, then I would have said that looks like a bare foot, and it still looks like a bare foot to me. It doesn't look like those 5-finger toe boots. It looks like a foot. But not in my mind like a Bigfoot print would look. And I've said before, it's interesting looking at the behaviour, that the moorland that links sort of like the West Pennines that I sort of research around. I've said before how ideal that would be to traverse the countryside like that. Who's going to at night, no one's going to see you. The trails are relatively easy. There are obviously the moorland's quite boggy, but if you know what you're doing and you know where you're going, which you assume that they would if they're here, that's a great way of getting around without being seen. So it's interesting that they were there, but again, it's just a lesson in applying skepticism, which is something I talked about last time, to a situation that could easily be seen for something that it's not. I mean, I may be wrong. It just looks too human for me. However they've been made over what is probably about 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile, broken up those prints along there. I don't know. It's a strange situation, really. And at least we got the images to reference. Not that they mean anything, really, to be honest. I mean, there's the whole if you found a print on a public walkway, discount it. I don't think that kind of logic works either. I think it's only if it was much different than a human foot. It was much more identifiable as a Bigfoot print. I'd be all over this, but because it looks so human, with just the thinness of the narrowness in the heel, and just the arch on the inside of the foot, it just doesn't work for me. But so here's some footage of me going back the following day, so just so you can get an idea of the area and how the moorlands sort of work here over here on the West Pennines, and pretty much, you know, the whole country really. Just to give, I mean, any Americans that are watching this, just to give you an idea of the terrain in the north of England, which we do have a lot of varied terrain and countryside here in England, and in Wales and Scotland and Ireland even. And I don't think that necessarily is seen when you look at Google Earth. Google Earth, and you'll know yourself if you're an American researcher, that it lies. You can research and look at one area from above from the satellite, and you get into that area, and it's nothing like you imagined it. Generally, it's much bigger, and there's much more going on than there appears to be in Google Earth, as great as it is. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I'm waffling on again, so I'll see you soon. Hi guys, so this is the top, sort of in a really high up area near the research area that I looked at yesterday. And if you're familiar with the British coastline, I'm just trying to spot. So Blackpool Tower is somewhere around there, and over there, all that is the Lake District. All that, and over this way you've got sort of like Manchester way. So it's about a mile from here. So I'm going to catch these guys up. So this is where I took that picture from yesterday, and it appears that the path's just been walked on, and now all the prints are covered, and 200 or 300 people do that, won't they? So opportunity missed yesterday in regards to print size, but nevertheless, you know, I'm not still, we're only around a 7 or 8 UK size, no bigger, and no wider really. I'd say slightly wider than the average human. If you put a human footprint, a human foot into that sort of terrain, you would imagine it would be thinner. But that's just, again, just guessing, surmising. Anyway, I'll look down for the rest of what we're saying about the terrain is that no one's walking up and down this in barefoot. So unfortunately, it's like the prints were gone, and it's just one of them things. What can you do? And at least we got some pictures of them. But this is the stream that runs alongside it, the quarry. So the quarry is up there. The stream, so you can see the steep face of the quarry runs right up there. And as we get further up here, we're getting some really dense woodland on the opposite side of the stream where there is no path. So all that stuff through there that I'll be looking at next week, probably when I get a chance. It's pretty dark places. Worth a look.
Does that look like a bat?